So, looks like we are going to have not Mr. on English. No, no, no. He doesn't pick his signature civ. He goes on the Mongols instead and leaves Matrix to pick up the English. In fact, both pro players have left the English to their secondaries, and Beasty's gone for the Delhi.
That's not uncommon if you think about that. We've talked about this one prior to the tournament, that most of these apprentice players, the ones that are from the gold or at maximum platinum league, they almost exclusively play one or two civilizations. So it's not a surprise that the pro players are the ones that adapt to their teammates and just let their teammate pick the civilization they're most comfortable with. Usually French or English. What is interesting over here is that we have no French picked here, despite the fact it was available for both teams.
And you know what's not so interesting? Oh, we see this so many times these days. It's the baby arms on the move across the map, directly towards his English counterpart. Bold move, Con. I would say if there's one civ you don't want to try to do this against, it is actually the English. Their people have bows, and they hurt.
Yeah, I actually wonder if he's going to shift focus to Beastyqt here, because the two players are actually rather close to each other, and you see, indeed, he has scouted the English player, and he's going for a Delhi one over here, and that's actually a pretty good find over here, ready to harass the gold mine already.
Lida? I don't know if this works either, though, right? Because, like, you know, Man, this is kind of tough, because, like, you're going to attempt this, but there's just going to be a Scholar again. We've seen this so many times. And I don't feel like it done enough damage the last time we saw this in the Delhi-English matchup.
Well, you are saying that, but for the time being, those gold miners are idle, and do keep in mind, we are looking at the apprentice player slowing down the pro player, and this could be enough for Mista's team. If Mista gains momentum from this, and they slow down Beasty, it could easily be enough for Mista to slow down the game. So, for the type of strategy they're playing, this could work, especially if you follow this up with a Mongol tower.
Yeah, so that was my doubt, is if it was just that alone. But if they're adding this tower in as well, this could be effective, especially considering that's the only goal that you'd have access to. And Beastyqt, he doesn't really do many tower victories. He's more of a dome boy, right? Which means that he's going to need extra gold to get additional scholars, because you aren't going to have access to these sacred sites straight away. And it is indeed the Dome of Faith, which means this is going to find a maximum value.
Yeah, that gold mine's gonna be cut off, and look at the amount of available backup gold mines for Beasty. None behind him. He would have to venture very far away to be able to secure gold for himself. So as you said, this hits right on top of the nail, because this is doing terrible amounts of damage to Beasty. Honestly, I would have expected Mista to just go with his signature Mongol fast castle and just try to snowball the game, but instead they both go very aggro, and so far it is doing some damage.
Well, because if you just try to fast castle, you're giving map control over to the Delhi player. It's not always a good idea. And also, you have this extra advantage here. Not only is your English player building early men-at-arms to aggress, notice what happened there. He starts torching. So you actually burn these down quicker, which means you don't necessarily need as many spears on the front line. In fact, if you look, I believe Mista stopped at 2 instead of going for the usual 4. And the reason is, if you need extra units to garrison, well, you have them now from your English teammate.
Yeah, and look at that. Look at that!
He lost. Okay, now this you said why is he not doing his fast castle? This might now be his fast castle Lidakor. If you build, so if you double produce the traders twice, and then after you've done that, move the silver tree as they're heading to the trade post. By the time they make the return, you should drop off enough gold to have castle age. I've seen Mista do this before. I've heard in Furycraft about this. I think it can work on team games even easier.
Yeah, and the thing I love about this is that what's the most dangerous thing to your trade? It's cavalry, and you are slowing down a cavalry player. You don't really have to be afraid of the English player harassing your trade. It's gonna take so much time for them to reach your trade with the longbows. And if you can slow down Beasty and make him pinned inside his base, then you can easily get away with a trade boom, and Mista can either trade to his teammate, or possibly even better, just to that neutral trading post to the north.
Yeah, so I think he's planning to go to the northern trade post. Something that's cool with Dry Arabia, it's a little bit harder to pull off in team games because the map is a bit more stretched, but it's amazing in 1v1s, is usually you can get half of the map for free because of the way wood spawns work. Usually you get kind of this defensible path to one of the other trade posts. In this situation, it's more like a third of the map, but if you look north of Mista's base, you can see you've got these multiple tree lines that kind of create choke points that make it much more difficult to raid into. Speaking of raiding, well, Beasty, he's had enough of what the Mongols have been doing here. He's going to pull the entire villager battalion to get rid of the outpost.
He understands the importance of that gold mine. He knows he needs it badly, and they're going to clean this up. But this actually bought some time here for Mista, and do keep in mind that Mista is now going for Horseman, and if I'm not mistaken, this is completely unscouted by Beasty's team, because everything they had was back at home, so little do they know that Mista is not only playing one stable, but two.
Oh man, I don't know if he's going to produce much out of it. I genuinely, like, yeah, I've seen Mista do this type of stuff before. I actually think that the stables are just a bait, right? Yeah, he's making up, sorry, he's making a card stage, isn't he? Yeah, like this is the cool thing, because he built them so early. Because he built the first one almost immediately, like at the beginning of the feudal, right? And I've talked to Mr. about this, and he loves this idea of doing things to force you to try and do something, right? So we'll see if he heads towards that castle, but I've seen this guy do it multiple times. He doesn't need to mass horsemen. He can build like 4 max and then stop.
Yeah, for sure. He just needs something that he can use to match Beasty's numbers with. And remember, if he's playing defensive, he doesn't need as many overall as what Beasty has. He just needs sufficient to deter Beasty from aggressing that trade. In fact, he's right now playing midfield just to make sure that Beasty doesn't even have the slightest clue that he's trading.
And I don't think he started building horsemen until he saw beasties, right? And scout would be a freebie, but he can't finish it off. This is one of those annoying situations where you wish you actually had a scout instead of a Khan, because he would have had the bonus damage to kill it.
Yeah, he definitely wants to make sure that they don't spot the trade, because once they spot the trade coming from Mista, that changes the game plan for Beasty and Baywood completely. So, for the time being, Mista's playing information warfare. The only reason why he's investing into this is because he wants to make sure they never find out about the trade.
And here comes the clash. Chase is going to be given fast here due to the Mongol speed arrow. Men-at-Arms are even going to get involved in the mess. You can see it's just going to be a peel back, though. Beasty and Baywood can't hang on to this too long. In fact, Beasty has to cut and run. He's selling him out. Baywood invested a lot of wood, and he's going to lose it all.
Look at that. Some new men-at-arms also added to the mix. I love that a lot. It's gonna be a good tank unit. It's expensive, but it holds its own against the horsemen. It's good to absorb arrow fire, even deals well with the spearmen, and I really love how it's not only just longbows from Matrix, but also a handful of men-at-arms.
I'm wondering if they actually ever scouted out that trade. I really am wondering now.
They didn't. There's no way.
And I don't think they're going to now either, right? Something to keep in mind is if you have a look on the right side of the screen, you may notice a lack of scouts. They don't have anyone to go find this trade anymore. Mista has a free game to trade with now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Mista could have started trading long ago, but instead he's playing for a longer game here, just securing map control. He's yet to start adding traders, but he's going for maximum efficiency. He already has the silver tree in the corner, and he's making a new market on the other side. So he's gonna have a full trip coming up very soon. And as you said, it is a massive amount of gold income with the map size we have in 2v2s.
Okay, Relic, can we do something about this? I hate how often this happens. When horsemen wrap around villages entirely and villagers walk through like nothing happened. Honestly felt like 4 villagers should have just been dying there. That was a great pinch by Mista, but it shows you how difficult it is to grab these slippery villages.
Yeah, for sure it is, but it forces Beast to defend, so no sacred sites for him, not a lot of map control, and critically, no clue about that trade still, or that future trade.
It's kind of interesting to think about like Delhi against English, right? Like, you know, in team games especially, I think it's a bit harder for a Delhi player to find value in the scholars because the longbow count is naturally going to be bigger because an English player can kind of focus on their strengths. Because if you think about usually what happens in team games, as with some of the French, for example, you know, French in 1v1s, they'll start off knights, they'll start building archers and maybe spears. In team games, they just build one unit, right? And if the English player only builds one unit, then it's much more difficult for you to escalate scholar count. Now BC's trying to fix that and build more scholars because he's seen that Matrix is building a lot of men-at-arms, but it's a lot later than he'd like. And it means that in the meantime, Matrix and Mista are still going to maintain a lot of map control.
Yeah, and they're going to use that to harass Baywood. If you take a look at Baywood's army, it's rather lackluster. Handful of spearmen, only a few longbows mixed in, and this is free real estate for Mista. He can just run around, do damage, set buildings on fire to get the bounty, and then just get out, stretch out the attention of Baywood, because Beast is busy capturing sacred sites.
Yeah, and this is annoying. Like, a blacksmith taking that much damage, are you now going to repair it? And that's going to cost you idle time plus wood. You can't delete it, because that'll give the raid bonus over to Mista anyway. So it's just creating these small kind of cracks where Mista gets even more economy out of the map, and he's reinvesting it constantly. Just look at the horseman count. Now up to 18, and he's not slowing down.
Yeah, and look at the teamwork between Matrix and Mista. The far right, Matrix is already walling off that corner. They realize that Beastyqt are in this area, and they want to make sure that even if he gets to the trade, there's going to be a wall standing in his path. So, really good teamwork out there, but bit of a miscoordination of forces. Beautiful wraparound by Beastyqt, picking off a couple of longbows.
It's minimum damage, though. In the meantime, he's losing spears on the retreat. Skull's also being sniped, so overall, not a bad exchange still for Mista and Matrix, so they're going to get even more out of it. Because the body blocks are kind of working against Beastyqt in his retreat. More horsemen going down, and right now, Beastyqt has to be scratching his head going, where the hell's Baywood? Well, he was back at home. It takes him a long time to show up to these fights.
Yeah, it's because he had to go back home to deal with the horseman raid of Mista.
Matrix, this is not a simulation, I assure you, sir. You are dying. A lot of men-at-arms just kind of thrown away there. A little bit of a disagreement on what to do, as it seems Mista wanted to back up, but Matrix didn't get the memo.
Yeah, stragglers will be picked off over here. It's going to be a regroup from Matrix and Mista, but part of the reason why they have to fall back here is because now Mista is investing entirely into trade. You can see that eco count escalate. It's up by 13 now in their favor, and once again, there's not a single bit of clue from Beastyqt or Baywood on this. It's crazy. In fact, I would love to see how much those traders return. So if Vodka can find us a trader that's going back with the gold, that would be beautiful. Would you look at that?
Oh, by all that is holy. And now with that, he's going to be teching up fast. And yeah, it's going to be the cruel time, baby. You don't need a step read out if you got trade. Oh. It
And
does,
also-
by the way, I will highlight quickly, the cruel type doesn't feel as good as it used to, because the damage buff doesn't linger anymore, which I think was a crippling change. Like, if that lingered, maybe there's something to the cruel tie. It's just for the healing mainly.
Yeah, it's mostly for the healing. That's also a scary force of horsemen, so the sheer Castle Age power spike of you being able to upgrade those horsemen from standard Feudal Age ones to veterans is going to be something that justifies the investment into Castle Age here. And yeah, as you said, it's going to be the cruel tie, but you're not really going up for a landmark over here, you're going for attack advantage specifically.
There is one cool thing you can do. If he wheels it across to Matrix's base, it's a heal point, right? They can rally towards it. That's the thing the cruel tie is cool with, because, you know, on the plus side of things they've done that changed the cruel tie is you don't need the Khan in range for the healing anymore. It's only for the damage buff. So you can just park it somewhere and use it as kind of an abbey of memes on wheels.
Yeah, and if you have a slow-moving army like the English, that's definitely something that you can assist your teammate with. You can just drop it right there, and the longbow standing and fighting will also get that buff. Imagine that, actually.
Yeah.
Self-healing plus the network of castles from the English buff, that's actually pretty scary together.
Yes, the only kind of things like, you can even go campfires, but obviously campfires isn't going to work when you're fighting as well. But speaking of fighting, that's about to occur. Wraparound coming in, the men-at-arms front line, the horsemen holding. The Beastie trying to flock on top of the English longbows. We'll get on them in the end, but this fight is not looking too squared up for Beastie and Baywood unless the spears can pull out a clutch win. Horsemen are starting to search for him. Remember, Lancers have been added in by Mista. Feels like Baywood is not able to contribute much to this fight, and the Scholar healing maybe is kind of limited here. The spears are more or less gone, and more Lancers on the way out. This feels like a hold for Mista. Okay, Beastie got his tech up. So
Yeah.
there is some magic coming, but it's far away, remember. This is still next to Matrix and Mista's base. So it's going to be an exchange of forces on both sides. Scholars are doing a damn good job of delaying the slaughter of their people. But with so few troops left, it feels like it's kind of inevitable that you need to either get out of here or you're going to be broke.
Yeah, Mista was late at the veteran horseman upgrade. He took that fight before he had that upgrade, so lost many of his horsemen before he had that. Still though, the big thing here is that at the end of the day, Mista and Matrix can afford to take even-ish fights because they have a 30 eco advantage, something that's completely undiscovered by Beastie and Baywood still. So for Beastie and Baywood, they may feel confident that they have done a lot of damage, but in reality, the resource income is now substantially better for the team of Mista, and soon that's going to turn into a flood of units.
That this is the downside of going Cruel Tie. Just you going Cruel Tie will tell them that you are trading. So at that point, they'll know to kind of divert their attention. But for now, remember, Beastie and Baywood got a win condition out of this. They bought enough time, they were able to move out and capture all three of the sacred sites. The timer is ticking down, so they need to be fast to decap. And I believe they're heading for a sacred site that actually has been walled off in the south. Pretty sure it was the first one that Beastie walled, so...
Yeah, I think all three are
difficult
walled
to get
actually,
decap.
so...
They are. Yeah, he done south, then he done center, and then he done north last. So they kind of went maybe the wrong way if they wanted a quick decap. Instead, they wanted to decapitate some poor little villages. And I believe that is a lack of textiles.
Oh, how many times?
Homes.
How many times?
When was the last time he was attacked, Lidakor? It's acceptable, you know? I think he had. It's hard to tell when it's Lancers, but it looks like he doesn't have textiles. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah,
that felt like
I wouldn't be surprised. But I guess Vodka's gonna show us in a second, so let's see. I don't think he has textiles.
Stupid. I dare you. Call me stupid, bro. Show me. Click that villager.
He has.
He does. I'm an idiot. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I wasn't sure. Like, in fairness, the Lance, I think, does 36 damage with the initial strike at this stage. That's kind of deceptive sometimes. But damn, the fact he's got textiles and they're still dying so fast.
It's a great trade. It's doing tremendous amounts of damage, and sure thing, you have to still decap the sacred sites, but at this point, this is the best thing Mist can do. They're outnumbered quite a bit when it comes to army numbers. They can't take a direct fight. They can't just decap the sacred sites. So, best thing that you can do right now is just harass the opponent, build on that trade lead, and kind of drag this game out as long as possible, make that countdown go down to like 2 or 3 minutes, and then decap it with numbers advantage.
Yeah, like, but that whole idea, the more you drag it, the more dangerous it can get, because what you have to remember is like, yeah, I'm idling him out, yeah, he's chasing my army around. Yeah, but anything you lose, the Mongol player dies, right? Yes. No, like, this isn't the Aegean anime. When you die, guys. And the problem with that is kind of Delhi don't function the same way. When they're on death's door, it's okay, Medicare is going to come through, which is why I'm glad they're making the move now. After they drag BC's army away, now Matrix has to go in for the decap, and Mr. is going to make a distraction on the north side.
Yeah, this is a beautiful combination of team effort once again from Mista and Matrix rather. First of all, Mista drags Beasty's force back, leaving only Baywood out here to defend with the slow force. This is a distraction by Mista, just to make sure that Baywood is here, and then Matrix can just dive in, decap one of the sacred sites, and once those sacred sites are gone, we're looking at a game where you have a 50-ish eco lead for Mista's team. That's a massive lead we talk about.
Yeah, so my concern right now is if Matrix finds a way to tech up, I don't think Beasty and Baywood can really fight anymore. But they have military advantage right now. The only thing that's really missing here is, like, say Mr. pays for Matrix's tech up. All of a sudden, those longbows get upgraded. All of a sudden, these men-at-arms become the most beefy mofos in the field. And there is a lot of them, by the way. What do you do? I mean, there's 30 men-at-arms here. Is this an English player or an HRE player? This is absurd.
Look at that flop.
Like, get him, boys!
Let's go! And only 2 scholars on the playing field, so basically no healing potential for Beasty. They are healing each other, man.
You mentioned that scholar. They all want that scholar. In the end, he surrounds, though. That's going to be the front line of Beasty just gone. And remember, that Sacred Site win condition was taken away from them. Beasty's bringing more reinforcements to the battlefield, but dog, he only lost like half the men-at-arms. And in exchange, they killed the entirety of both Baywood and Beasty's army.
And Beasty's army is a Castle Age Delhi army, whereas those were still feudal age men-at-arms.
Early men-at-arms. Not too early to the battlefield, my friend. They arrived just when they were needed. They look so clowny as well, right? Especially before they reach Castle Age. They move so slow. They look kind of podgy, like they haven't worked out at all. But man, Mista and Matrix had someone worked out in this one. What a definitive advantage. And there's that tech up I was talking about. Baywood is now just stuck behind. He could try to rush a tech up here, but you don't have an army anymore. So if you rush a tech up, they're taking full map control.
And do keep in mind that with Castle Age in for Matrix, he's gonna have 2 town centers to work with, so they will just continue to increase that already existing eco lead. And it's gonna be difficult. As you said, you can't really just rush up Castle here if you're Baywood. At least Beasty now knows for certain that the trade is there. As you said, he possibly could have guessed from the Kurotai, although talking about Mista, it's not guaranteed that Kurotai equals trade, but now he has definitive confirmation on the trade, and he's probably like, oh shoot, we're in trouble.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that. At this point, it's kind of the equivalent of reaching the end game scoreboard, seeing their goal and going, oh, they were trading, right? It's like, it doesn't really do you any favors anymore. You haven't got an army to go raid the back line with. Like, if Beasty doesn't fight with these Lancers he's building, they're going to lose the main battlefield, right? Because you can see the Lancer count right now clearly favors Mista. So he's going to try to raid on the flanks. The wall's going to be there. He's trying to find his way in, but if you do this, it's going to get mirrored. And at the end of the day, like, the eco has already been milked by Mista. It's going to be unfortunate to lose a lot of those traders, but the damage he can now do to the English player and the Delhi player, it's going to be irreparable.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because it's much easier for Matrix to replenish villagers with 2 town centers than it is for Beirut. So it's much easier for Matrix and Mista to afford casualties on the economy department as compared to Beirut and Beastyqt.
Let me see Beastyqt. He has to come back and defend now. But it's just a tough one. There's just so many lancers here. They're not going to stop for you. They're going to stop to butcher villagers. And sure, you've been butchering a few of these traders on the back foot, but remember, this is still an English feudal versus English castle. So it's not just the economy of Mista anymore. Economy of Matrix as well.
Yeah. Sacred sites have once again been capped though, and let's not sleep on the fact that the knight numbers aren't terrible right now for Beastyqt, and he's been doing pretty good job with the raiding. So at least he's been distracting Mista and Matrix, buying some time. He still needs to find a way to cut into the eco deficit. Like, he needs a terrific raid here, but for the time being, he's trying to just buy time Beastyqt style. And let's not forget that Beastyqt is one of the best players when it comes to buying time, dragging the game out, and then somehow mounting a miraculous comeback.
Yeah, but what you're saying out of Mista is he's just doing what we know Beastyqt does a lot, right? It's like, you must come to the back of your base, you must pay attention to me. And although these raiders done a little bit of damage, you know, it wasn't the knockout punch Beastyqt was looking for. He's still chipping away at a few of these traders, and it's quite fortunate for him that Mista never set up outposts with the Yam, right? It would make it a lot more difficult to do this. But at the end of the day, I think there's still like, what, there's got to be maybe 15 traders out there?
Yeah.
Oh, please tell... No, don't cast a cut. Don't tell me that these 2 lancers are going to kill all the trade. Right? Someone has to notice this, right?
Yeah,
okay,
you would think
coming.
so. There is one lancer coming in. Mista's going to deal with that.
There we go. Okay, he's had enough of it. He's like, wait, my gold is going down. What's happened here? Yeah, so it was 15 traders, just went down to 13. It's still 13 traders, though. You're still pretty comfortable with this. Especially now that Matrix is picking up the slack.
Yeah, and Matrix is also walling up slow and steady. So it's going to be increasingly difficult for Beastyqt to raid, although Beastyqt is creeping towards that corner with the trade. So
wait,
you gotta be careful here.
Compounds, or did he go for House of Learning?
I think he went
compound. I thought he went
House
House of Learning because of all the men at arms.
Went.
Yeah, because look, I thought it was when I saw the men at arms. The only thing that made me doubt it was that keep drop. That keep drop right next to Matrix's base. And the reason that's important is like this win condition of the Sacred Site seems good, but you can't invest a lot of keeps into it. So you always have to have your military postured and outnumber your opponents. Otherwise, you will lose the Sacred Site. And that's exactly what happened here.
I loved how you said, oh, the victory condition of Sacred Sites, and in that very moment, the Knight just decapped the Sacred. So I was like, well, there it goes.
Because there's no keeps. Like, there's no keeps, right? Like, if you went for combat defense, you'd have keeps, but you wouldn't have this sheer mass of men-at-arms that can clash with the English men-at-arms. I think that's part of the reason he made the choice. The fact that he needed men-at-arms to counter out the English player, he needed lancers to counter out the Mongol player. This allows him to beat them at both, but not in these numbers, it doesn't. Get the hell out of Dodge.
What is that flood?
It's like slime, it just sticks to you, won't let go. Men-at-arms are just going to be the front line to tank. Lancers are going to wrap into. I mean, right now, they are just going to wipe the army. There's no way out of this easily for Beastyqt. He has to stand his ground and trade whatever he can. Baywood is contributing like a cheerleader on the side at this stage. I mean, look at that force of 10 units on the north side. It does nothing in this. They're just dead.
Imagine how good this fight would be for Matrix if he had a veteran longbow upgrade, because he's still fighting with feudal age longbows, ladies and gents. This fight could have been even better for them, but looks like they're still going to...
Did he upgrade the men-at-arms?
He did.
That's all that matters.
Yeah,
he definitely did, right? With armor-clad as well. Look at those beefcakes. Who cares about the longbows, Lidakor?
Yeah, you can see the silvery armor on them, so they're definitely upgraded. Not so much for the longbows.
Who cares? It's just they're a bait, Lidakor, because if you upgrade the longbows, right, it costs to upgrade those longbows. And then when they die, you're like, that was a waste. But this way, they're just a sponge. They're a bait unit, right? You dangle them in front of him. BC's like, ooh, longbows. I need to kill them.
Oh yeah, not much is left from Baywood. In fact, now Matrix and Mista has a 2-1 military lead. So much so that Baywood was so panicked. Oh, Baywood made a white tower at the back of his base. Talk about the panic.
He actually cancelled it at first and then built it again because he got paranoid. And I don't know, man. I think like this is where it starts to look grim. Like, BC is trying his hardest to keep minute. These keep drops are getting so annoying, and Matrix is still not noticing. You'd think he might. Finally, Trebs are going to arrive, but it's not Matrix's Trebs. Mista had to come and resolve this issue.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a teamwork, KP. He just wants to get the bounty for the buildings destroyed. It's definitely not Matrix not noticing the keep drops in his face.
Yeah, I can see it now. Mista's like sparking up another cigarette. He's like, Matrix, leave these to me. I get paid to do this. You go kill the other English player. He built a white tower. This should be pretty Lamau.
At least the trade has been stopped, but it's too little too late. Like, he's already gotten what he wanted from that trade. Massive eco lead still on the side of Matrix and Mista, and those keeps won't hold forever.
And we should talk about that white tower that Baywood built, because it was a very interesting location, but if you think about it, it's quite smart. He's setting up for hyper late game English trade. He saw what Mista was doing. He said, that looks really good. I want some of that too. Crafty for Baywood. Beasty. Oh, he doesn't want to lose his keeps. Sorry, did I sound too believable there?
No.
Okay, let's look at the
no
other
one's
side.
No one's gonna believe that you just make a white tower at the back of your base for nothing.
Okay, how about this? Baywood has been backstabbed so many times in these battles, he's worried that someone's going to come across from the map next door and backstab him. That white tower ensures that they cannot.
Be careful, somebody might even believe you.
Yeah, all the maps are connected, guys. We actually play on a wider map. It's like one of those big, mega RTS strategy games, and oh, good God, the amount of villagers dying here. Scholars as well. I mean... It's starting to crumble a little, isn't it? You look at the military count, you look at the eco count, and you know that Beastie fans right now, oh my God, okay, everyone, even Beastie is now huffing the copium when this comes out into the battlefield.
You're
Holy
laughing
crap, it actually looks so fast.
It's actually deceiving, because if you can ever take a fight, then it's really good against cavalry. Like,
if.
Yeah, it's a big if.
I'm not gonna let you get away with this. If.
I mean, for Beastie...
Okay, but what if a million men-at-arms attack you?
Nope, that's a big nope. Or just longbows picking you apart, finally with the veteran upgrade. That's a short-lived elephant out there, ladies and gents.
Whoa! Here comes another elephant, though. He's done it! The longbows are gonna die! They've only existed for about 10 minutes longer than they ever should have. Oh, this is a treat, Lidakor. This is why we need more team tournaments. Really big shout out to LaSh for this format, because, you know, nothing else would have delivered this.
This elephant is gonna survive, actually, so he's gonna live to see another day. And truth be told, Beastie's trying to force a fight on the right side. So at this point, the concept of the elephant probably is that he just wants to go straight in and force Mista to defend his teammate. But Mista probably won't care. He would just run around with knights every once in a while and pick off the eco.
And you guys, you need to understand the psychological damage Beastie just done. Mista, he crafts every possibility. He sees every potential strategy. But he got in that base, he went, war elephants. Checks his notes. I haven't got them anywhere. No one builds those units anymore. They're trash units. There's no way this is going to work.
I mean, the largest amount of psychological damage from the war elephants was delivered on us, not their opponents, I feel.
Yeah, the war cries, right? Like, I'm going to wake up and, oh God, the elephants are coming for me. Right now, the lancers are coming for the villagers. Oh, lordy. Actually, this doesn't look that good, right? There's only like 6 or 7 villages maybe you can get, and there's a bunch of spears, so not the most impactful raid. Meanwhile, in the mid-map, I do believe there's a push underway towards Matrix's base.
Yeah, this is actually getting intimidating for Mist and Matrix, because, well, they still have, on paper, a massive eco lead. It's not really showing on the battlefield. Army numbers are dead even, and Mista really wasn't able to get much from that raiding, and instead, Beastie is building up a somewhat scary-looking force out there. And they're both adding mangonels now, so unless Mista snipes those mangonels for Baywood or for Matrix, that could get scary for the English player that is fielding exclusively infantry.
How much gold does Beastie have? He's queued up 13 scholars. He has 1 war elephant and he's queued up 13 scholars. Okay, this elephant is about to be the Elephanto version of Hercules. Yeah, he only has 700 gold because he's got 12 scholars queued up right now.
1 elephant in a dream, ladies and gents. That's the concept over here.
It's got Hannibal. Hannibal had a whole battalion, but if you want to be better than Hannibal, you just take 1 elephant and you make the dream come true.
Or just take lancers and make the dream come true. Look at that. Beautiful raid. Could easily be the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, because, if you're scared of the elephants, just don't fight the elephant, right? These villagers don't get about 62 damage per strike against you. No, they hit you for 6, and then minus most of that due to melee armor. That's going to be a lot of idle time, a lot of dead villagers as well. I mean, there's nothing here to defend for Baywood. He sent the whole army to the front line, and I say the whole army. It wasn't an impressive army, Lidakor. 10 spearmen and about 20 men at arms.
I mean, it used to be impressive, but now there's just nothing left of it. So, yeah, not much left here for Baywood, and now they're down by 120 eco overall. Like, on paper, this looks like a decisive advantage for Matrix and Mista. They just need to finish this game.
Easier said than done. Trebuchets are going to start working on it, though. Zakib's going to be sieged. Going to force an assault from Beasty. He's in a choke point with double Mangonel, but oh no, the formation shuffle, no! Straight away, Mangonels get sniped. Honestly, formations are a curse. Longbows do get hit by the remaining Mangonel, but they're not going to die fast enough. This is going to be a reasonable fight to begin with the Lancers, the pathfinding working against them. The men-at-arms, however, are in deep. They will carry the battle.
That Mangonel is coming in clutch out there, wiping out most of the longbows here from Matrix, so casualties are tremendous on both sides, but as you said, Baywood has no standing army left over here, and I'm not sure how long these Scholars and the Elephant can hold.
Honestly, the only thing that's making this look half competitive is the choke point, the body blocking right now. It's like you've unleashed 15 people that like cake and you've said there's a cupcake. They are gonna murder each other to get onto that. And that right now, that cupcake is the elephant. Everyone wants to kill it, but no one can access it.
I would love to see those trebuchets taking down the walls just to make that choke point a little less oppressive.
I would love to see the trebuchets taking out the elephant.
I don't want to go that ambitious.
He's a big target, you know? You can get your hands on him.
Looks like they're just going to keep focusing down the keep.
I mean, honestly, I feel like Mista is like, he's just encouraging Matrix to go do things, and he's just got that, you know, that Mista smile on his face as he does it. The Mista smile with cigarette hanging out the side that he does so often. And he's like, this may not be like the most optimal play in the moment, but I'm proud of you, Matrix. Keep going, buddy. You're taking on 2 players. I'm just the supporting cast.
That Springbolt creeping up there, getting picked off immediately. Finally, not a lot of Scholars healing the Elephant, so we might see the hero of the battle going down here. Against overwhelming odds.
Yeah, the longbows are going to come into play again. The men-at-arms are rejoining the fight. Matrix like, Daddy, let me help you! Elephant is going to be gone. Keep is going to be gone. Remember, they don't even have all 3 sacred sites. I don't know if this was an oversight or they just couldn't reach it. That northern sacred site has been decapped a while, so it's not like they're defending a win condition here.
No, not at all. In fact, they're just fighting for their survival, but defeat seems imminent because there's just nothing left on the playing field now for them. Down to 56 army, but that's deceiving because most of that is actually just Springolds and Mangonels. Only a handful of men-at-arms, spearmen, and lancers are left against what now is 30 lancers from Mista, and just a never-ending flood of men-at-arms and longbows from Matrix.
I wonder if Baywood has reached the point where he just turned to his Alexa and said, Alexa, play Linkin Park Numb. Because I just feel like every time he tries to show up to these fights to help, it's like the wrong time, right? Like Beasty's army gets wide, or they lose a key objective, and then he comes in, there's nothing left. And Beasty agrees, he's done with this. He's going to wave the white flag. It looks like Matrix and Mista will continue on, but Beasty and Baywood have to keep the dream alive. Down in that lower bracket.
And it looks like he's just gonna say, Alexa, turn off computer because this game is done. Baywood also taps out here, and once again, a very back and forth game, ultimately coming down to the fact that Mista got away with an atrocious amount of trade for quite a while. It is remarkable how well they could conceal it, and I'm fairly certain that this game was won by simply having Beasty and his teammate not knowing about that trade for so long. If you look at the overall resources gathered, that tells you the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, it's an insane amount of gold he got, but where this really comes in is the way that he manipulated the mid-map with the Horsemen. Like, he built the stables, he waited until he saw Beasty had built Horsemen, and then he reflects that to make sure there's no entry point. Beasty has to address the horse clash instead. That's why he never discovers the trade. And the thing about Mista is so brilliant is he drops the stables, but doesn't immediately use them. He does that on purpose so that he wants to force a reaction out of his opponent first. This guy is all about reactions. It's what makes him such a kind of mastermind of AOE4, is he might do things with no intent of using it. I've talked to him, had discussions where he's like, how do you beat this? It's like, build 3 racks and don't build anything out of them and wait for them to make a response. And it's so true because AOE4 is a game of transitions, it is a game of reactions. And I will say Beasty and Baywood would have been alerted to the trade as soon as they saw a Kurultai at the front of Mister's base. But at that stage, like the army is too big for Matrix, especially. So many men at arms in that mid map that dictated the flow. It meant that BC could never go and take out the trade earlier like he wanted to.
And you're saying that he could never take out a trade. That is reflected in the stats. 33,000 gold in the bank for Mista over the course of this game. Beasty had 17,000, controlling 3 sacred sites for a long time, having numerous relics. Mista himself had more gold income than the 2 opponents combined. In fact, I would dare to say that all 3 other players combined, that is just way too many resources to fight against if you're Beasty and Baywood.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, and I'm pretty sure we already did that to people at some other point, Alexa, start trading. Okay, I'm pretty sure someone's Alexa out there just invested